Today we go into a classic debate that deals with many great Talmudic and Kabbalistic teachers. Teachings from the Arizal. The Arizal, a 16th century Kabbalistic sage who is what we would call the father of modern day Kabbalah, who taught many a thing, and perhaps one of the most important things is the concept of understanding how can you come from an infinite God to a finite world. Before the Arizal, well, we believed, because we're ma'aminim b'nei ma'aminim, believers, the children of believers. So we believe, what do we believe? That an infinite God created a finite world. But we had no understanding, we had no appreciation, no intelligent awareness of what that means until the Arizal. And he came up with a concept called Tzimtzum, translated as contraction. Contraction, what does that mean? So, the Alter Rebbe says that in light of what we learned previously, of God being the knower, the knowledge, and the known as one, in previous class, now we can understand that certain scholars, how they erred. They really made a mistake. They misinterpreted the understanding of the Arizal and his teachings. He said, the Arizal, that when God, from an infinite God, wants to create a finite world, there's a contraction upon God. So they understand Tzimtzum kipshutai, Tzimtzum, contraction, literally, as opposed to, as the Alter Rebbe will explain, Tzimtzum shloi kipshutai, not to be taken literally, because the term that the Arizal uses is siluk, departure, removal. So is there a removal of God in the act of Tzimtzum? Or is it only that God is concealing himself and not removing himself? This is the issue. This is the issue. So they say, siluk, well, he removed himself. Literally removed himself rather than concealed. Now that, of course, God is still in control. He still controls everything in the world, but, so to speak, beyond the world, in a manner of, metaphorically speaking, just as a metaphor so we can wrap our minds a little bit around this, as like a king who sits in his palace and gazes beyond to and controls things, but from a removed place. This is what they say. Now, what prompted this, that they would say this, is an underlying idea as follows. This world, this physical world in particular, is shafal v'nivza, is low and despicable. Despicable, in the sense that the light of God is in such a way that you can deny God, that there is a God. It is physical, it is materialistic, it's debased, and so on. So why would God, who's so beyond, have to do with such a low world? He'll control it from beyond. And he has pleasure from the good that we do. We're talking about here God as creator. We're not talking about God in a relationship with God. That's not the point over here. In a relationship, we have a relationship with God. Every time we do a mitzvah, like we're doing now, we're studying Torah. So we get at this moment, a divine kiss, right? Kiss are two lips that come together, exchange a breath. This idea we've spoken about at great length in the past. The Alter Rebbe isn't saying this in today's teachings, but just adding so we have the context of this all, that we are mouthing the divine wisdom when we speak Torah. We are getting the divine wisdom when we understand it, like the breath in exchange in a kiss, that there's the breath of God that enters us and becomes our vision, our wisdom, our intelligence. So, yes, we're bound up through the act of a mitzvah with God. Through the study of Torah, and when we do a mitzvah, we get a royal embrace. Absolutely. But that's about our relationship with God. We're not speaking here about our relationship with God. We're talking about God as creator. God is creator. So God is creator. In order to create a finite, limited world, he does so by contraction, Tzimtzum, as we explain. And as these people make a mistake, and we're talking about, great scholars. We're not talking about, just much, really great scholars. The Vilna Gaon, for example. But he says they made a mistake in understanding, in taking it literally. In other words, that there's a literal removal of the essence of God from this world. God's in control, but in a removed manner. So now the Alter Rebbe begins to give reasons why this is a mistake. The first reason he gives is the fact that if you would take Tzimtzum literally, Tzimtzum kipshuta, contraction, that God contracted literally on himself, that would suggest that God is corporeal. He's physical. Well, very simple. I can remove myself from the screen right now. I did, right? I can remove myself. Why? Well, how could I remove myself? Because I'm physical. So I can only be here and not there. Once I'm there, I'm not here, obviously, right? So if there's any physical reality to something, so wherever it isn't elsewhere. And therefore there can be a departure, there can be a removal. So when we say that God removed himself, that is suggesting that there's a physicality to God. That can't be. That's the first point. Second point is they being believers, and as the Talmud tells us, our sages say, we're believers, children of believers. So we know that God created everything, and how does, and he says that even those who say that Tzimtzum is literal, they believe that God's knowledge, it extends to this world, of course, right? But as we learned in yesterday's class at great length, and that's what ties into today's class as the flow continues, is that knowledge is not adding anything to God. Otherwise, it would be plurality. Nothing innovative that's, oh, look at that, Ronnie Fine, look what he's doing today. Such a nice thing. He's teaching Tanya. Beautiful, wonderful. Meaning there was something added to the awareness of God. But as we learned in the previous class, that when God is knowing something, he's knowing himself, because there's nothing outside of him. So he is the knower, the known, and the knowledge all at once. Me, the soul, is a knower. My brain is the faculty and the tool of knowledge. And the known that I'm teaching right now, or that, hey, that I see the icon of Sina, Josh, Vilma, and many others over here, right? I just became aware of that. Is something that's known. All those three things are separate entities. By God, they're all one. And hence, when God is knowing something, he's knowing of himself, nothing added to him. So, and they believe that simply, that there isn't a plurality. So if there isn't a plurality, that could only be God is knowing him, knowing whatever is occurring in this physical world or any part of creation, because it's of him, not outside of him. Therefore, you can't say that God removed himself and he's sort of like gazing from afar. That means suggesting that there's some kind of additional awareness of things in creation. The third point that he makes, and this is now those were of of teachings and the logic and the rationale behind the first two. Then he quotes from the Zohar, the Zohar being the basic Kabbalistic teachings written by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai 1800 years ago. So the Zohar says very clearly there's no place that's devoid of him, God, not of the extension of God's reach. You might say, well, there's no place that's devoid of the reach of God. It's like the king, a king of the Tsar of Russia. Tell of the yeshuvnik, the simple farmer that lived in his little village and never went out of his village. And one day he had to go to the big city, and he's traveling. He's traveling. He went 10 kilometers. He said, "Are we still in Russia?" He says, Yeah. We're still in Russia. He goes another 20 kilometers. "Are we still in Russia?" I said, "Yeah." Wow, what a czar! Look at the reach of the czar, right? So look at his reach, right? Same thing with God. So God's reach is more than the czar. His reach is all spiritual worlds in this physical world, right? But that's not what it's saying over here in the Zohar. There's no place devoid of the essence of God, of him, the Ein Sof, not the upper or the lower worlds. In other words, not the reach of God, but God himself. So, proof from the Zohar. Another from teaching of the Zohar, it says he grasps all and none can grasp him. Him, God, we can't grasp him. So the Alter Rebbe explains, what does it mean to grasp? Well, I'm grasped by the teachings, which means I grasp it, it grasps me, which is a sense of evolvement. When you grasp something, you evolve in the understanding and the awareness, the knowledge, the intelligence of it, and it changes you. When you're grasped by something and it grasps you, it changes you. But what do we say about God? Him, that we can't grasp him because nothing in this world can change him. He's not graspable in the sense, in the act of creator, by the way, not in the act of a relationship. Very clear. I want to make sure that we have a clarity here, that we're speaking about as creator and what he does, as opposed to who he is in the sense that we have a relationship with him. So what he does is creator, right? In that act of creation, he is not graspable. He is even, as the term is in the Zohar, he is hidden even from the hidden spiritual worlds. No thought can grasp him. And yet, he is, meaning he's here, but not in a way that we grasp him, or he's grasped by being here, meaning he's limited by being here. When you're grasped by something, you're contained by it, you're limited by it. God is not contained by it, and we can't contain him. That he is above and beyond. Now, and as he says further, that as opposed to, and this is probably one of the reasons why we look at God in such a way, as we've actually learned previously, and a very important understanding, as opposed to the way the soul is in the body. We call the soul a yeridas and neshama, the coming down of the soul. Well, it is a come down. Why? Because it gets grasped in the body. What does it mean it gets grasped in the body? It's found in the body, but it's even not just found in the body, but it's grasped, meaning it's contained. What does it mean it's contained? It means it's affected. The the water that's in here, well, that was in here, in my mug, is contained by the mug, meaning it gives it parameters, it gives it limitation, right? Because it's contained in something. So the soul is contained within the body, therefore it's affected by the body in its container. It's affected by the body. So when the body feels cold, the soul also senses that, and the like. And therefore, that's how we think of God. We can think of God in such a way that he is found within the world. He's contained, grasped. But that's not true. He is here, but not in a graspable way. Not like the soul that is contained within the body and is affected and changes as a result of its container, the body, but not God as he is within the world. He is, we can't contain him in our minds and grasp him because he is not contained by that which he is found within. He's not contained by it, meaning he's not grasped by it, he's not limited by it, he's not affected by it, but yet being here at the same time. Those are some of the arguments against understanding contraction, literally, Tzimtzum Kipshutai. I'm going to continue with this. So this is a very profound, and again, some of the great sages in the last 300 years in the discussion of understanding Arizal's teachings of contraction. So when we understand, just in summary, when we understand that Tzimtzum is not literal, that means that God did not remove himself, he just concealed himself. He is very much here. He's very much found within creation, as opposed to these other, again, great scholars, but erred in this understanding that God literally removed himself. Not that he's not in control, he's totally in control, but that the essence of God, the light of God is removed, the essence light of the light of God is removed. This world is too low for him, so to speak. Metaphorically, it's like, CEO of a corporation. CEO of a corporation doesn't do toilets. Of a major corporation of 5,000 people, he doesn't do toilets. Well, God's the CEO of this major corporation called the world. Many more employees than 5,000. He doesn't do the toilets. This world, it's like relative to the spiritual world, is like, hey, it's like the toilet in the scheme of the building that of creation. So the building of creation is not just this physical world, there's many of the spiritual worlds. So this physical, totally removed. It's beyond. And beyond, not in a sense that he is not in control and still not God of the world. He totally is. But he himself is, it's sort of like, his ministers are doing his bidding. And that is a mistake. God is very much found in this world. He's concealed. And when we're speaking about God, I'm talking about the essence of God as opposed to, any other qualities of God or the reach of God. That the essence of God is here, but in a concealed manner. And that's what it means. Tzimtzum is not literally removed, but hidden. Any questions, any comments? Very philosophical idea, I admit. What's the practicality of it? Very simple. Is God himself found within creation, or only the, so to speak, let me explain, let me maybe bring it a bit further that we can appreciate. We see intelligence in creation. I mean, just take a leaf and look at it. Understand the workings of your body. Boy, what intelligence. No question. This comes from a creator. I mean, famous story with the Rambam that he uh, was friendly with someone who was an unbeliever. I don't think the person was even Jewish, if I recall correctly. It was and he was a poet. When they came to visit him, he wasn't there, and he saw he was in the middle of writing a poem with the quill on the ledge, on the desk, and the parchment, and he was in the middle. Rambam read. You know what he did? He finished the poem. He finished the poem. A few days later, he comes and he sees him. He says, a friend says, "Were you here a couple days ago?" He says, "Well, why do you ask?" Because I was in the middle of a poem. I left for a bit. I came back and it was finished. I can't think of anybody else, first of all, who would finish it off in such a beautiful way, in the path and the way I was thinking. Beautiful. I can't think of anybody else that would be by you. So I don't know what you're talking about. Look at the ink, the inkwell. It's sitting on the ledge over there. I know what happened. A wind must have come, blown over the inkwell, and voila, look what happened. Look what beautiful poem that was written. So he looks at it, okay, what do you think? I'm an idiot? Obviously you did it, and you're trying to cover up for it and give me some Bubba Misa. I don't know if you said Bubba Misa, but so he says, well, if that be the case, then how is it that you could look at this world and see that it's much more intricate and much more intelligent than finishing off that poem? Look at the body and the great intelligence that there is in and precision in everything of the body and everything of the world. Obviously, there's someone who wrote it, someone who put it together and brought it together, just as your poem. So we could look at God as, he's the writer of it. There's intelligence in it, right? There's the intelligence it takes to create a mug and to, fashion it and so on, right? That's wonderful. But is the person in the mug? No. The act of the person is in the mug, but not the person. And that's how we would look at creation. Naturally. No. That's because we create God in our image. But we have to understand, no. Not just the act of God is within creation. God himself has been removed from creation and is found in creation. It just means a closeness to God, ultimately. To not just a closeness to his actions, but to him himself. And then, again, I'm now going off the topic here, but the consequence of that is that the relationship we have then with God is a much more meaningful and profound one, because it's with God himself rather than his actions. Take it in human terms, you can have a relationship with a person just merely on the things they do for us or for others. But that's not a real intimate, personal, deep relationship. When we have it with the person themselves as opposed to the acts and actions that they take, is obviously much more intimate and profound and meaningful. So that's a consequence of this, and the Alter Rebbe isn't speaking about this here, but that would be the consequence, and that's the first part of Tanya, and the next part that's coming up, which I just want to let you know. I finished this now, but just to let you know that I'm going to be starting in the third part of Tanya, making a booklet that whoever wants to buy into this, it's called Tanya Journaling. To take the teachings every day, the points that we learn, and to the points that resonate with you, and to then journal on how this affects your life on a daily basis, or if you don't do it daily, whenever, as often as you do it, how it affects you and changes things in your character, in your relationships, in life in general, and that we can actually start seeing, not just learning Tanya, but doing it and living it. That's coming up. You'd have to sign up for that in order that you can get this 64-page booklet sent to you. And on top of that, then we'll have sharing time that we can share the ideas, our victories, our challenges, and how I can help in augmenting things and making things better. So that's coming up. So soon I hope to have, maybe even for tomorrow, the place where you can sign up for it. There will be some minimal cost involved, but for the booklet at least, and then more so for the kind of small groups that we'll have together. So yeah, I'll let you know soon when that is. All right, any questions, any comments? Davida, is there any questions? Josh. Good morning.
Good morning. First of all, thank you so much for this teaching. It's been great.
Pleasure, thank you.
My question is, could you repeat the very first thing that you said in terms of what was the original question? Is how does an infinite God
create a finite world?
Create the finite. Okay, great.
Right. In other words, till the Arizal, we believed it in a manner of faith because we had no understanding of it. Tzimtzum, contraction, gives us an idea and an understanding of that with intelligence. Go ahead, Josh.
Okay, awesome, thank you. So with that in mind, and my question, and with Tzimtzum, when it's with the contraction, somehow for me it helps me think of, or for me I don't know, it's hard for me to separate the creation from relation to us, because with the contraction it feels like that just shows the humility, the humility characteristic of God. So much so, like when he does interact with the world, it manifests in a physical way. Like when God creates clothing for Adam and Eve.
Right.
But anyway, that was my thoughts on it.
Okay. Thank you. So, God as creator, there's a tzimtzum, a contraction. God as personal relationship through Torah and mitzvahs is beyond tzimtzum. It's not through tzimtzum, direct to him. So in that respect, there is a distinction. But more on that to come. Okay. Daisy has questions. Okay. So our essence is concealed also. Daisy, please, if you could put the question marks before, not afterwards. Okay. Because I just skipped right over it. So our essence is concealed also in this world to us, since we are one with him. Is this true? Is our essence concealed? For the most part, yeah, absolutely. Our essence is concealed, yeah. If we can't see him, I guess, then we can't grasp ourselves since we are one with him. I'm not certain. I'm not clear on that, what that means. Okay. Eugenia says, I know now that Hashem contracts himself to bridge the gap between the infinite and the finite world. But in reality, it does not remove his presence in the world. Hashem's essence is fully bound with the world, allowing physical beings to connect to the world. I know if I wouldn't use the word fully bound because that would mean contained. It's not fully present or fully here in a concealed fashion, because the word bound would be like contained. That's the kind of what that would mean. I know you don't mean that, but that could be perceived that way. And I know now that the Kabbalistic debate between God's Tzimtzum and creation is explained by the Alter Rebbe. Tzimtzum is not literal. God is everywhere, and every creation is hidden, and nothing can grasp him. Our souls are grasped by our body. Very good. Excellent. Okay. Okay, anybody else? Oh, Jeff, please share.
Hi, Rabbi. So
Hello.
I think your last statement just kind of, your last answer kind of like summarized what I was going to just ask is a little more of a historical context. So I think what you said was before the 15th century, the idea was we're believers, we're children of believers, and that's what we know, and that's our history. And then Arizal said that no, not no, but the extension is that, well, God, the creation is a result of a contraction. And then I think what you said was that Tanya now says it's not a contraction in removal, but it's more, it can't be that because of the three reasons that you gave. It can't be that, and because God knows everything and will know everything and has known everything. Is that
Right.
like a summary?
Yes. The three reasons in summary was that God is not corporeal. So the notion of removal is, some kind of entity that has a parameter to it. So it's here and then removed from here. You can't say that about God, right? That was the first point. The second point was that that's in God's knowledge. Even there's nothing added to his knowledge. He knows himself. So and therefore, it's not like he is knowing something beyond him. He's knowing of him, meaning that he's not removed. Just he's hidden. That is hidden from us. And the third point was based on the Zohar's teachings, where 2 points the Zohar makes. One is that God himself is found within creation, and that God is not contained by creation or grasped by our minds, because being that he's not contained by creation, therefore we can't grasp him, but means that he's here, but not contained and limited and defined by what it means here. Yep, those are in brief, the basic three ideas. Thank you for that. Anybody else? Vilma, welcome back. Sina, Mayor, David, Aliana, Tim. I missed something on Facebook or on Instagram. Okay, I think that's it. Beautiful. All right, folks. To be continued. Reminder today, 12:45. We'll be learning on Zoom, 770, 6085, the Zoom. or on the Chabad ZK Facebook page. Um, and looking forward to everybody coming join us. Have a wonderful day. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Josh. Be well.